Imagine you're standing across from the greatest swordsman who ever lived. He has fought over 60 duels. He has never lost. Not once. And now, at the age of 60, knowing he is dying, he sits alone in a cave, and he writes. Not about swords. Not about war. About life. That man was Miyamoto Musashi. And what he wrote became one of the most profound books on strategy, mindset, and mastery ever put to paper. It's called The Book of Five Rings. And in the next 15 minutes, I want to show you why it might be the most important book you've never properly read. Because this isn't really a book about sword fighting. It's a book about you, about how you think, how you act, how you face resistance, and what it actually takes to master something. Let's get into it. Part 1. The Earth Scroll. Know your ground. Musashi opens with something most people skip over because it sounds simple. He says, know the way broadly. Not deeply, broadly. That distinction matters more than you'd think. Most of us go deep into one thing, one skill, one career, one way of seeing the world, and we mistake that depth for wisdom. Musashi is saying something different. He's saying that true mastery requires you to understand the landscape you're operating in, not just the narrow path you're standing on. He compares strategy to carpentry. A master carpenter doesn't just know how to use one tool. He knows what each tool is for, when to use it, and how the whole structure comes together. He can see the building before it exists. The Earth Scroll is about that foundation. It's about developing what we might call situational awareness, not just of your environment, but of yourself. Musashi lays out his 9 principles in this scroll, and the one that hits hardest is this. Do nothing that is of no use. Read that again. Do nothing that is of no use. We live in a world that glorifies busyness, that treats a full calendar as a sign of success. Musashi would call that confusion. He spent decades stripping away everything that didn't contribute to his path. No possessions, no attachment, no wasted movement. The question the Earth Scroll forces you to ask is, what are you doing right now that is of no use? And why haven't you stopped? Part 2. The Water Scroll. Become the river. The Water Scroll is where Musashi gets into the mind. He says your spirit should be like water. It takes the shape of whatever contains it. It can be a trickle or a flood. It finds its way around every obstacle. It never stops moving. This is not about being passive. It's about not being brittle. Think about the last time something didn't go the way you planned. A setback at work, a relationship that fell apart, a version of yourself that didn't survive contact with reality. How did you respond? Did you adapt? Or did you crack? Musashi trained himself to approach every situation fresh, without assumptions, without ego, without the need for things to go a certain way. He called this having no fixed form. Not being shapeless out of weakness, but being shapeless by choice, so that you can take the exact shape the moment requires. He also writes about observation, and this is something most people in modern life are terrible at. We walk into rooms already decided. We listen to people while composing our response. We see what we expect to see. Musashi says, see what is there. Not what you want. Not what you fear. What is actually there. That kind of clarity, the ability to see a situation without distortion, is one of the rarest and most powerful things a person can develop. And it starts with slowing down enough to actually look. Part 3. The Fire Scroll. The Art of Decisive Action. Now we get to the scroll that most people find the most confronting. The Fire Scroll is about combat, about the actual moment of engagement. But translated into everyday life, it's about something most of us avoid, decisive action. Musashi talks about timing as if it's a living thing. He says there is a rhythm to everything, to markets, to conversations, to your own energy levels, and that the master's job is to feel that rhythm and act within it. Not too early, not too late. Now, he describes something he calls becoming the enemy. Putting yourself so completely inside another person's perspective that you understand not just what they're doing, but why. He used this in combat. But imagine using it in a negotiation, in a difficult conversation with someone you love, or in understanding why your customers are behaving the way they are. The ability to genuinely inhabit another perspective, not to agree with it, but to understand it, is one of the most strategically powerful things a human being can do. Most people never develop it because it requires temporarily setting down their own ego, and that is uncomfortable. The Fire Scroll also deals with hesitation, and Musashi is brutal about it. He says that hesitation is defeat before the battle has begun. Not because you need to be reckless, he's never reckless, but because indecision is its own kind of decision. It lets the moment pass. It gives the advantage to whoever is willing to commit. How many opportunities have you let slip because you waited for a better time that never came? Musashi didn't wait. He decided, he moved, and he was already 3 steps ahead by the time most people had figured out what was happening. Part 4. The Wind Scroll. Know what you're not. The Wind Scroll is unusual. Musashi spends almost the entire thing critiquing other schools of swordsmanship. At first glance, it reads like a man settling scores. But there's something deeper going on. Musashi believed that you cannot truly understand your own path until you understand other paths and where they fall short. Not out of arrogance, but out of rigorous thinking. He looked at every school, every style, every philosophy that wasn't his own, and he asked, what does this get wrong? What does it prioritize that I wouldn't? What does it miss? His main critique of other schools was that they mistook style for substance. They got attached to particular techniques, aesthetics, and ways of moving, and in doing so, they became predictable, imitable, and limited. This is a lesson that applies everywhere. In your career, it's easy to become someone who does things a certain way, because that's how you've always done them. In your thinking, it's easy to reach for the same frameworks over and over. In relationships, it's easy to play the same role you've always played. The Wind Scroll asks you to look at the assumptions baked into how you operate and question them, not to abandon everything, but to make sure that what you're doing is a genuine choice rather than an inherited habit. Know your competition. Study what you disagree with. Understand the alternatives, not to copy them, but to sharpen your own thinking by contrast. Part 5. The Void Scroll, Beyond Technique. The final scroll is barely 3 pages long. It is the shortest. It is the most mysterious, and it might be the most important. Musashi calls it the void, and he's quick to tell you what it's not. It's not darkness. It's not emptiness in the sense of having nothing. It's not confusion. The void is what remains when you have completely mastered something, when technique becomes so deeply integrated that it disappears, when you stop thinking about what to do, and you simply do. Athletes talk about being in the zone. Musicians describe moments where the music plays itself. Writers speak of days when the words come from somewhere they can't explain. That is the void. But here's the uncomfortable part. You cannot reach it by chasing it. You can only reach it by doing the work, by going through the earth, the water, the fire, the wind, by building a foundation so solid that it eventually becomes invisible beneath you. Musashi spent 60 years getting to 3 pages. Think about that. The void is not a shortcut. It is not a hack. It is the destination of a life lived with total commitment to a single path, iterated and refined until the self gets out of the way and something truer takes over. Most people never get there, not because they lack the ability, but because they never commit long enough or deeply enough to anything. The takeaway and call to action. Musashi wrote the Book of 5 Rings in 1645, in a cave, alone, weeks before he died. He had no audience in mind, no followers to impress, no algorithm to satisfy. He wrote it because he had lived it, because 60 years of absolute commitment to his path had produced a clarity that he felt compelled to leave behind. The 5 scrolls give us 5 questions worth sitting with. From the earth, what are you doing that is of no use? And when will you stop? From the water, where are you being rigid when the situation is asking you to flow? From the fire, what decision are you hesitating on? And what is that hesitation costing you? From the wind, which of your habits are genuine choices, and which are just inherited patterns? From the void, what would you do with your one life if you committed to it completely? Not for a week, not for a year, but for as long as it takes? The Book of Five Rings is 400 years old, but it asks questions that most self-help books don't have the nerve to ask, because the answers require something from you. If something in this video landed for you, I'd love to know which scroll hit hardest. Drop it in the comments. And if you want to go deeper, I'm building a full article series on each scroll. The link is below. Until next time, keep going.